Well, Harlan is a coal town, and that really started right around 1911. During the 90s in Harlan, the 2000s, coal production slowed down. There's been a decline of economy, population, and business. Fortunately, I have a business of necessity, not of luxury. And those are the businesses that can survive in Harlan. I'm saddened by Harlan's present. I grew up here. We are more than just coal. I was born May 25th, 1969. She was found June 1st, 1969. It's possible she was murdered on the day I was born. June 1st, 1969, in Harlan County, Kentucky, on Little Shepherd Trail, the body of a young woman was discovered by a man who was picking flowers for his wife. She had been stabbed in the chest multiple times, no clothing on her. There was an autopsy performed at the Harlan Appalachian Regional Hospital. And it didn't take long to realize that there was no clue as to who this woman was.
Her face was completely gone. All you could see was the skull. This portion of her face was gone. She stank up that whole first floor of that hospital. I mean, the smell was horrific. Coming out of there. She was so emaciated with maggots that they pretty much limed her down, put her in a bag, and that was pretty much it.
On a mountain right here in the city of Harlan is a cemetery. She was taken up to this cemetery by the rescue squad. She was buried in this casket, and a small grave marker was placed for her. And that is about all we hear of her at that time.
That was pretty much a shocker for the community, you know, to find this girl like that murdered up on this trail. Everyone was wondering, you know, what's going on, what happened to her, why is she here, where'd she come from? Makes you wonder, you know, how anyone could be that cruel, that violent, especially living as close to where she was found as I do. Where the crow flies, it's not more than 5 miles from where she was at, up on this mountain back here.
I remember people talking about it years ago on Pine Mountain. It's a Little Shepherd Trail. They were a lady found. Nobody ever knew who she was.
The girl, you know, I used to hunt up there. I used to go up there every day, you know, every morning before daylight, and I'd hunt. And I pretty much know right where they found her at. And every time I go by that place, it was, you know, it was like, man, it's just hard to believe.
I would love to know. Didn't they never know who she was?
Yeah, well, they used to talk about that Red Dog Hill. It was ghost. A woman would come out at night and try to get in the cars with you when it was raining on a nighttime. Remember that?
Yes, I remember that. They said that when she came out, she was trying to find her way home.
Home, yeah.
I can remember my grandfather saying that this is where she was found. It was just something that my family talked about. The more I learned of this girl and her tragic ending, she had nobody fighting for her. She could not speak for herself, and no one was speaking for her. I wanted people to remember her, and she deserved a voice. So I spoke for her. So I created this book. In my book, I did mention another Kentucky cold case called the Tent Girl.
Her body was discovered along US 25 in Scott County, wrapped in a tent back in 1968.
And I mentioned it because it is a solved cold case. The man who solved the case of the Tent Girl, he contacted me.
For the most part, my day job is finding the missing among the dead, the unidentified deceased. In 1998, I solved a 30-year mystery. It was a Jane Doe case. I used the internet to match that Jane Doe to a missing persons case I found on the internet.
Matthews cracked his first case 8 years ago, uncovering the identity of an anonymous murder victim in Kentucky nicknamed Tent Girl by authorities.
There's a lot of people that I want to thank. Todd for number one.
Matthews has no official law enforcement experience. He's just a regular guy who works at a local auto parts factory.
Well, I spent a lot of nights in this room here, and I would sit up there at midnight. My wife would be in bed at the other end of the house, fuming because I was up late at night. And then just one night, it was in January of 1998, and I knew it was her when I saw it. So the bizarre hobby, trying to send a Jane Doe back to her family, became a job. The Department of Justice said, do this again and again and again, forever. I found out about Harlan County Jane Doe case because of Darla's book. You know, the Harlan County Jane Doe reminded me of the Tent Girl case because mostly it was in the same time period. They were very close in time, the late 60s, and then an unidentified girl found basically on the side of the road left. You know, obviously somebody killed both of them.
He said that in my book that I wrote that no one was interested in this young girl and her murder, and he informed me that he was very interested.
You know, I was 2 years old when my sister died. I just remember great sadness, a lot of crying, and then her grave was present ever since I can have a memory of being breathing. Her grave was there. Well, you know, I always knew that death was a reality and not just something, you know, so it's not like these are just cases that mean nothing. They're just bodies, you know, because I'd hate to think my siblings were treated like unknowns. I've always said some of my best friends are dead, and people say I'm sorry, but they were dead when I met them. And I'm finally going to be able to take this person out of the grave, and I think I have an opportunity to give her back to the people that she belongs to. At her age, she's the age of my parents. They're not yet 70. She could have children my age. The living victims of missing and unidentified persons cases are the families because they're going through this tragedy every day. You know, a traditional funeral, 3 days you're buried, and then you find ways to adapt to your new life. In a missing persons case, it's like a funeral that goes on for years, sometimes decades.
My son, Kyle Rugg, is 20 years old. He disappeared on a Wednesday, March the 4th, 2015.
My dad was reported missing the end of June 2002. There's no way to describe what it feels like to not know where someone is or what happened to them.
We just need everyone's help.
The worst part about it is not knowing. You can't eat because you don't know if they're hungry.
We're the Wallace family, and Jacob Wallace, and he's been missing since January 17th of 2014.
We called him Peanut when he was a baby. He was real little. Now he's grown up, and he just kept that nickname.
My daughter, Alexandria, has been missing for 5 years today. When she got off the school bus that afternoon, that was the last time she had been seen. Every day, I do something for Allie. Whether it be post a flyer somewhere or make a post on her Facebook page, on the Hope for Allie page. I'm just never going to stop.
The Missing Persons Day is an opportunity to collect DNA from the families.
You can do them put together. Yeah, just along the inside of your cheek. Yeah, just do that for a bit, get them nice and wet.
It's an automated search, so technically we could get a sample from mom, dad, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, whoever we can get a sample from, and it could be searching the system, and they could literally get a cold hit. With the Harlan County Jane Doe case, the only thing left to do in this case is to get that body out of the ground for DNA collection. 4 families out there had a possible connection to this case. Once you have families involved in it, you've got stakeholders. That gives you a good reason to exhume that body just for the purpose of collecting DNA for comparison to them.
All right, here she is. And from what I understand, there might be a 1966 John Doe right there. We could change that too. It's not too old. Rest in peace is not always forever, you know that, right?
Yeah,
so
well,
I think we'll be forgiven for this there.
I don't think she's in peace.
All this is about to change.